Hello, Laura. Nice to meet you again in the online environment. Thank you for being here and for wanting to share with us who you are in this project called I Am, a project that wants to get you to know different unique people from all over the world, and a project who invites you to contribute for the medical first line in the hospitals now. If you get one idea or one perspective which helps you from this conversation, I invite you to click the link and to donate a small amount to keep the medical system going. So thank you so much, Laura, for being here. I am happy to have this conversation with you. And please tell us in 30 seconds, who are you?
I'm a British-born chef who has now transitioned through to learning about Ayurveda, and instead of cooking and helping people through their sense more of sight and smell and taste, it's more about helping people to balance themselves through food, through the principles of Ayurveda. So this is where I've been transitioning towards, and this is where I am now.
How did you get to meet with Ayurveda and to fall in love, maybe?
So historically, I've cooked for very famous people. I've been a celebrity chef in Moscow. I've pretty much everything to do with cooking I've done, whether it's been teaching cooking or cooking for Formula One, the McLaren Grand Prix team. I traveled the world with them. I've cooked for people, everyone from Prince Charles to Prince the musician. And I've cooked for a lot of high net worth individuals. And that can be very challenging, I would have to admit. Also with cooking, when you have a deadline and you have to, it's almost like when you work in a commercial environment, you're almost like the conductor. You have to keep all the plates spinning in the air, and then they all have to land at exactly the same time. So if you have orders from the sushi section and the salad section and the wok and the dim sum, and it's a one order for one table, everything has to arrive at the same time and be ready to go. But I did find that through working in a commercial environment, it was more about deadlines. It became more about deadlines than really cooking with love, And that for me, this is the most important ingredient that you can put in your food. And also to help yourself when you're eating, to be eating in a very calm and relaxed environment. I've learned so much just from myself and how I've been historically. When I was working as a private chef, I would be working on the computer and eating literally like a zombie, or I'd be running out to the shop and I'd have an apple in my hand and I'd be, because deadline, I've got to get back because I have to get that on the table and blah, blah, blah. And so I was eating without concentrating about what I was eating. I was eating too fast. I was probably eating too much in one go. The body is very clever. It actually tells us when we've had enough, but we'll only know that if we eat in a mindful way. And what it does is that when your stomach becomes full, because this is the size of your stomach, when you cup your hands, that is the size of your stomach. And 1/3 of that should be air to move the food around, 1/3 liquid and 1/3 solid food. And if you think normally it should be that, but normally on our plate it's that, we just eat too much, and it's not good for our immunity. So what the body does, it's a little air comes up and you have a little hiccup, and it can be so subtle. I'm not talking about a big belch, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about just a little. And if you're mindful, you feel it, and everyone has it. And it's extraordinary, because I was so unmindful before, and
you can listen to your stomach.
And now I listen to myself, and I know. And before as well, I used to eat because it was mealtime, even if I wasn't hungry. Oh, it's mealtime, it's time to eat. And that's not listening to the body either. Plus, I would eat when I was super stressed. You know, if my stomach was kind of literally tying knots because my head is somewhere else and I'm thinking about the next meal, or where am I going to get so-and-so product or whatever. And for then it's better to avoid. It's just better to avoid eating. Yeah. So
you felt all that as a challenge with yourself, and with the rush of preparing everything in a time frame which is very strict. And how did you change all that to Ayurveda, to what you're doing now?
So what happened was, how did I discover Ayurveda? Going back to your original question, I'd been working privately for a family, and the environment in the house was not conducive to my happiness, let's say. It was a very challenging environment. And I realized that I was eating after I prepared breakfast for the household. So I was having my breakfast around 11ish, finishing off the pastries, having really strong coffee, having my lunch around 3:30, literally like the zombie, because I'm looking at all the recipes and menus. And then in the evening, after I'd cleared up everything, around 10:30 in the evening. And I was getting so fat. I mean, literally, I got to fat and 50, and I was so miserable. And then I took myself off I just knew I needed to make a change. Like, I needed to make a dramatic change. So even though I understood how to make beautiful food and really tasty food and things that people, I love it when people go, wow, yum, great. Da, da, da. I love when I hear these noises from my clients. So that makes me very happy. But even though I knew how to do that, I didn't know how to look after myself. And so, as I say, I put on all this weight because I was eating way too late, and in a stressed, in a sort of bit stressed, when I should have been having breakfast by 8, lunch by 12. When the sun is at the highest, this is when your digestion is at its strongest, and dinner by 6 is optimal for everyone. Mm-hmm. So I found myself in the situation of being just overweight and sluggish and not feeling great. And I started researching, where shall I go? What do I do? Where shall I go? I'm going to take some time out and look after myself. So I looked at, and on a tight budget as well. So first of all, I looked at a place in Portugal that was doing juices, just a juicing diet. But I know from friends who've done that only works for as long as you are juicing. And then you go straight back to your old habits again. So that wasn't working. Also, the thing about juicing, if you're just on juicing, you've got no oil going into your body. And you really need to have a lot of oil, like a car engine needs the oil. We need oil. We need it for our plumpness of skin and smoothness and hair, and we need to have that oil to feel energized. Otherwise you get all creaky. And the other thing about these type of juices is that obviously you're cutting out everything else. So all those other things that could be causing you distress, you've cut those out just for that time frame, which is why sometimes people can get confused into thinking that's what I have to do, that's the way forward, when actually it's not a long-term
So you were just searching for solutions for yourself.
Yes.
Did you launch into
so
trying this,
I
or
looked at that.
you were just balancing different solutions and choosing one?
So I was looking for one, but the information that I'm giving you is because I've studied Ayurveda, I understand why about all the juicing, and so
I will want to ask you a few tips and tricks for all the people that are not so close to Ayurveda, and a few tips and tricks that we can all use in our kitchen now. But I will be very curious to know how did you launch into Ayurveda, and how did you had your first contact, and how did you specialize in this?
So I knew about Ayurveda, just the word Ayurveda, because one of my best friends is married to probably the top practitioner in the UK. And so I heard the word, but I didn't understand what it was about, and he never discussed it. All I knew that was in his office, there was just all sorts of very exotic herbs and oils and spices, and it all just looked a bit mystical to me. Anyway, so I found a place in Sri Lanka that was an Ayurveda center, and something resonated well inside, and I thought, I'm going to give this a go. And so I went off to Sri Lanka. I went to this beautiful place called the Plantation Villa, and I was there for 3 weeks, and I underwent just these very gentle, very beautiful things, and I was in nature all the time. I was reading lots of books, and in fact, in the first 5 days, I didn't speak to anyone, like no one. I think I had been so stressed at that point that I think I just was slowly just kind of going down, releasing. But it was in an environment of mindful eating. So they taught us about mindful eating there, and they encouraged, actually, really keep talking to a minimum and really concentrate on the food and enjoy the experience of your food and the tastes of your food and all the different beautiful spices that you can use. So after 3 weeks of being, so for example, I did yoga every day, and I had lots of oil massages, and I was put in a box. My head was exposed, but I was put in a steam box, and lots of, as I say, Ayurveda massage is actually all about putting oil inside the body, as opposed to the pressure of a normal, sports massage or something. But after 3 weeks in the at the retreat center, and then following through when I came back to the UK, I lost like 8 kilos, boom, like that, really quickly. And I was so shocked. I couldn't believe that such a gentle process could have such profound, incredible results. So even whilst I was in Sri Lanka, I was calling my friends, the Ayurvedic practitioner, on the WhatsApp saying, I can't believe I've known you nearly 30 years. You've never shared this with me. But now I really do understand that in Ayurveda, people don't really talk about it unless you're asked. When you ask about it, it's fine to give the information. But otherwise, I think, it can seem a bit cranky to people because they just on a different, in a different mindset. Because what Ayurveda teaches you is that you have to have a connection with self. Because if you don't have a connection with self, you're never going to be listening to what it is your body says. And it's so important to listen to your body, because normally we have our own worst enemy living between our ears. Chatter, 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 chatter. And that negates actually what it is our body tells us, which is I'm tired. No, I'm just going to finish doing my emails. And the body's saying, tired, go to bed. No, I'm just going to keep going on doing this.
So if someone would be interested in Ayurveda, how would you recommend to start to be mindful and self-connected as a process?
As well with Ayurveda, meditation and yoga is very much a part of that system. But in general, so Ayurveda, it basically translates as knowledge of life, science of life. And the whole point of Ayurveda is to bring you into balance. That's the point, to bring you into balance. And it sees food as medicine. And so we should constantly be in the state of balance. And when we go out of balance, it brings you back in. In Ayurveda, everything is seen as a potential medicine. So it's not it's not vegan. It sees meat as being, it can be helpful if you have a massive iron deficiency, for example, then, maybe you need to have some red meat. We're from a cold country. We're not, 10 generations Indian, for example, from a hot country. We don't have that vegan, vegetarian within our system. So even alcohol can be seen as medicine. In fact, one of my favorite doctors, Ayurveda doctors, he's written a whole book about single malt whiskey.
So it could be surprising for the ones that are not very open. But how would you reinforce this self-connection in someone who is starting to discover himself, let's say? How did you do it? When you were overwhelmed and you had that schedule and didn't respect your rhythm, your own rhythm, how did you rediscover yourself and how did you get connected to your inner self?
Well, I guess first of all, everything that I've ever learned about Ayurveda makes sense. Everything makes sense to me. So somewhere in the back of my mind, it's all information that we actually, all of us know. We all know this information, but we just, as I say, we have that chatter going on. So meditation is actually a really good way to start, because it helps you shut down the chatter. And of course, we're not going to ever not stop having thoughts going in our mind, but it is just a case of gently pushing them aside to have. That's why concentrating on the breath is a good way to shut out, because of course we're always going to have thoughts going in, but it's just a way to calm ourselves down. Mindful eating is a really good way to start. In fact,
how do you practice mindful eating? So, can you practice it with any meal?
For a start, you should be eating sitting down. So not standing up, not running, not sitting in the car, on the train, but in a calm, in a clean environment, without crazy music or anything like that. So in a calm environment, and try to leave any arguments or any super loud chatter to after you've finished eating. What helps if you put your cutlery down in between mouthfuls. If you do that, it really slows down the amount that gong, 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 gong. really good idea. Also, avoid having ice in your drinks. In fact, in any drinks, it's iced food, because we all have a digestive fire, and it's the digestive fire that helps burn all the food that we have. And we really want to have such a strong digestion that when you wake up in the morning, within the first hour, you eliminate. Because if you're not doing that, if you're holding on to, if you're holding on to waste matter and not letting it go, it's not good. Obviously, it's not good for your body. And taking coffee in the morning is not a way to control your elimination like that, because obviously coffee, it sends you into fight or flight mode. It sends your heart rate pumping, it makes you more alert, the eyes, and it makes you lose your it makes you eliminate, because historically that fight or flight is all about running away from the saber-toothed tiger, to go and run as fast as you can and climb up a tree and escape it, for example.
So you are not a coffee drinker?
I am.
Do you take it later?
I am, but I have it later. I start every day with a really beautiful tea. When I say tea, an infusion. So it's fennel seeds, it's coriander seeds, and it's cumin seeds. And these are untoasted. It's just straight from a teaspoon of each. And it's fantastic. It's really good for your whole digestive system. It's really good to have after you eat as well. It really helps with digestion, and anti-inflammatory, anti-nausea. It's got so many good things going on for it, and it tastes wonderful. So I would highly recommend that. So it's cumin, coriander, and cardamom. No, sorry, cardamom's in coffee. Cumin, fennel, and
you said fennel.
Yeah, and fennel seeds. Yeah, I would highly recommend that. Also, when you're eating, don't drink loads. Don't drink like a pint of water, for example, because otherwise that dilutes too much the food that you're eating. And you want your body to absorb all of the nutrients. You need to give it time to absorb all the nutrients you're eating, and not just flushing it all away. So that's also another good thing to do. And if you are gently, mindfully eating and putting down your cutlery, then you will feel that little gas burp. So I challenge everyone to listen out for their burp. And even more so, when you do feel it, to say, I've had enough. That's it. That is my body telling me I've had enough. Because if you go past that, it's excess food. You'll put on weight.
Do you have more areas in your life where you sort of go from fast forward to slow motion, like in eating? I see this mindful eating as getting slower, like in the movie frames. I don't know if that's your perception also. But it's a process of concentrating on food.
Well, at the moment, I am challenging myself insofar as that I am using this lockdown time to study for my anatomy and physiology diploma, which I should have had when I signed on to do my Ayurveda diploma. So that was a prerequisite. But they did allow me to start to do the diploma because I signed on to do the other diploma at the same time. I understand that now, having done the diploma, because with my chef background and only 3 weeks in an Ayurveda center, I was in a classroom with general practitioner doctors, with holistic practitioners, with yoga teachers, everyone who knew the terminology, who understood the whole bodily functions, etc., and Sanskrit, because there's a lot of Sanskrit words when you're learning about Ayurveda. And I didn't know any of these. I mean, I really, I was comparing myself all the time to the other people in the classroom. And they were such beautiful people. They just kept saying, don't worry, Laura. You are from, of course, you're from a totally different background, but you come with a totally different, unique set of skills. And they were so right. And so I always had their words in the back of my head, just saying, it's okay, Laura, you know, you're just doing it differently.
I guess you took your perspective and your share of knowledge and
yes.
exquisite cuisine in this Ayurveda course.
Because this is where I'm going anyway, to help and to teach people how to rebalance themselves through the lessons of Ayurveda. Because there is no such thing as Ayurveda food. There is only Ayurveda teaching that you apply to the kitchen. So even the most famous foods like khichdi, for example, which is a mung beans and a rice mix cooked together with spices. That's probably the number one most famous Ayurveda dish. And it's traditionally given to people who have a very low immune system, or they're weak or sick, and they need to build up their digestive fire, because the combination of the white basmati rice and the mung bean gives you a perfect protein, and it's the most easy thing for the system to digest.
You are so passionate about Ayurveda that you are falling into the details. I want to ask you how it is for you, this experience of getting into anatomy and physiology. I think it's all online now. How do you absorb it? How do you exercise? How it is?
It's practice. It's literally practice. I mean, for example, I just seeing this on my desk right now. I mean, just
wow.
This is examination lines of the face. You know, I went, for example, I went to a seminar with Dr. Vasant Lad, who's probably one of the most famous Ayurvedic practitioners in the world. And when you go on such a deeper level, you need to have, you know, you need to have the terminology and understand literally how the body works. But I mean, of course, I'm interested to know how the body works, but I'm going so deep now into all the muscles and the different bones. But I have to, every day I'm writing, I'm practicing, and I'm testing myself. And it's difficult because, you know, I'm 52 now, and it does get harder to remember. It does.
Age is a number. You know, it doesn't reflect on your energy and your meaningful life.
No.
And joyness.
No, but I'm so, I want to do it. I'm looking at my wall. I'm thinking that diploma is going to be up on the wall, and I keep motivating myself that way. I see the end goal. I know I'm going to get there. I have to put in the work, and so I am. And so I'm using this opportunity now, because I can't exactly. So I've written a course to teach people the fundamental basics about Ayurveda. I've taken out most of the Sanskrit words, because otherwise it can be quite overwhelming to sit in a classroom and listen to somebody talking about Sanskrit words that you literally in the too hard basket.
You connect, and you find hard to listen and to be attentive to such
but if you I teach some basic recipes of Ayurveda, and then we go into more of the background. But at the moment, I can't have a full classroom of people, obviously, and I'm not so technically minded that I'm developing the course to go online as such at the moment. So I'm spending the time, well, number one, I'm looking after my mum, my 80-year-old mum, who's loving being on the end of all the food that I'm cooking.
This might be a bonding experience.
Yeah, it really is.
Appreciative thing to have this time together.
Yes, it is. It's wonderful. And I'm putting the I'm studying the anatomy physiology. So at the end of I have more to contribute because it's all connected. Of course, everything is all connected.
Your growth,
so
and your
I'll benefit. I want to share that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And they are really easy techniques to implement for a lot of people. So
I think your Ayurveda course or cooking at your home, I saw some pictures. It's more an experience than maybe sharing some principles in written form, let's say. How do your trainees
so before they even arrive, they have a information that I send them.
They are already prepared to the content.
Yeah, so they have a precursor. And then when they arrive, we talk through that. We introduce ourselves, what people want to get out of it, and the more we talk about, the more we go into the different types of bodies that there are. People go, oh yeah, and it's
they
all
really
connected.
get to know themselves better through
yes, they do, and they go away with recipes, things that I've the recipes I've taught them, and of course everyone's got loads of questions, and that's really it's fun, you know, it's a really fun.
When you're in your mission zone, it's fun to share and to contribute.
Yeah.
So how do you plan your day nowadays with
I set my alarm, so my alarm goes off about 6:15 in the morning, and then I get up. It's just I don't lounge around, I just get up. And then I go downstairs and I feed my cat.
How many cats do you have?
I have Luna. She's a Siberian forest cat.
Wow.
She's adorable. She'll muscle her way into my bedroom and she'll just plonk herself right there. So I feed her, so then I have space to then do meditation in the morning. And then after that, I do yoga in the morning. And then I read a couple of chapters. I'm reading a really interesting book about the body at the moment. So I'm making myself committing to 2 chapters a day. Then I'll go downstairs. I'll maybe put some beans or something in the pressure cooker so that I know that lunch will be ready by 12. Because, as I say, this is when the sun is highest in the sky. It's when all of our digestive system is at its most powerful. And I don't have an excuse now not to stay within the time frame. So then I'm doing preparation for lunch, and then I'm doing my studying. So in the afternoon, I'll go for a little general walk I mean, it's really quiet where I am. You don't really see many people around, and there's lots of back streets that I can walk in. And so, well, yeah. But my day is really busy, and Zoom at parties seems to be the way forward now. So I'm connecting in a way that is different. I had my birthday last week, and I invited a whole load of friends for a Zoom party, and there was about 25 people coming in from Paris, Barcelona, Madrid, Australia.
Wow.
But I have to admit that's a little bit chaotic when you have so many people and everyone wants to talk at the same time. So now I think three or four people is good
in the Zoom room.
Yeah.
How do you keep your relations oiled and lubricated and getting well?
So just my general friendships.
Yes.
I have a WhatsApp group and there's probably about 15 people in that, and we send hilarious messages. And so one ping, it goes to a whole group of good friends. And I have to admit, I have my telephone turned off at least 5 hours a day, because when I'm studying, I want to study. Otherwise, the phone is too much of a distraction. It's ping, 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 ping. And I love getting these messages. I mean, I've wept laughing with the ridiculousness of some of the things that people have been posting, and very un-PC sometimes, but in any case, all in good humor. And so I have that going on, and I forward a lot of messages, and so I have a big network of friends, but very international, because I've lived abroad so much. So I have that going. Then I have my Ayurveda adventuress, which is on my Instagram, and so I post up inspirational messages or recipes or thought of the day, and that's always something positive. Always
so
something.
We can find you as Laura Bridge on Instagram.
No, it's Ayurvedic adventuress.
Okay.
So Ayurveda is spelled AYURVDIC. Okay. Is that right? I'm so dyslexic. AYURVDIC.
I will spell it. I will write it on the description of this video, so people have the chance to connect to your Instagram posts, because I think they will get a lot of inspiration in those posts of yours.
I hope so, because that's the point. I mean, literally, that's the point. You know, there's nothing ever negative that goes in there, because I don't want to be that person. I just want to spread, you know, a happy feeling, because that's
energy and joy. What was your most precious, joyful moment of life, Laura?
I've had so many incredible kind of ta-da type moments. Well, I guess the one that springs to mind the most was something that happened in Peru. I was living in Peru after living in Moscow for 5 years. I was in such a stressful job. For me, it was really stressful, because half the week I was getting up at 8 in the morning, and half the week I was going to bed at 8 in the morning. My whole metabolism was just totally messed up. I was leaving work at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, crazy. But you know, when these oligarchs and whatever are coming in and they're having dinner at midnight, and then there's another rush at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's all it's a lot of it. That's a lot of adrenaline. Anyway, so I went to Peru. I went to learn Spanish because I'd been invited to open a restaurant in Ibiza. And so I went to Peru to learn Spanish for 3 months, ended up living in the jungle. I was there for 9 months, as it turned out. But I met an incredible shaman, a plant doctor, let's say, and I did a ceremony in the jungle. And when I came out of this tent, this I don't want to say tent, church, you know, and there was just full moon, and I wanted to scream at this full moon because I had so much energy and passion, but at the time I was so scared to hear my own voice, which is funny now because I'm really happy to talk now, but then I was really scared. I was terrified to hear my own voice. But this beam of energy came down, and it said to me, Laura, it's time for you to take control of your happiness. Can't you do this now? Can't you take control of your happiness? And I was in so much shock. And I just looked up and I just said, I didn't know I had the choice. I didn't know I had the choice. I'd been living like as a victim for so long, in this victim mentality for so many years. And it was one of the most profound, incredible things that literally ever, it just changed so much. It was simple. It seems so simple, but it was extraordinary at the time because I had so much chatter going on, and I hadn't just stopped and given myself the time and the opportunity to listen to my heart. And it was a lesson that was just profound and extraordinary. And
it seems like an incredible adventure of getting to.
I've been chasing these incredible adventures. And so even how we met on the Speak and Inspire course for public speaking, I learned so much from that course. I had amazing aha moments during that course as well. And I healed anger rifts, and I healed internal things, and it's extraordinary. I feel so happy these days that even now, during this whole craziness that we've never had the world like this as it is now. We've just, with the communication and the way everything's gone on shutdown, even now I feel a sense of calm. I feel a sense of calm. I'm aware, obviously I'm aware, but I do feel a sense of inner calm that's not going freaking out and just because right now in this moment I have air to breathe, I have a warm bed, I have a roof over my head, I have food to eat. In this moment, everything is great, it's wonderful, it's fantastic in this moment. And that's how I'm trying to live, not what's happening at the end. Oh, is this going to be 3 months? Is it going to be 6 months? Is this going to be What's the economy going to be? None of that.
It's such a beautiful way to spot the gratefulness every day, and to be appreciative of what
in the now,
and in the present moment, and connected.
Yeah.
Laura, it's a real pleasure to listen to you. I would do it for hours and hours. maybe I will ask you to have a sequel in a story form or in an interview form. For now, I thank you so much for being with us and for sharing who you are and your experience. And as a finish line, I would ask you to define yourself in one single word. Me, Laura Bridge, I am.
I'm a light worker.
You are a miracle worker. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Hope to meet you soon. In a Zoom room, maybe.
Wonderful. I look forward to it.